Anne caught her cheating husband Chris off guard. "Why are you home, Angela?" my spouse of 28 years questioned. She had just walked in through the garage and saw me at our kitchen table, a mere 10 feet away. Her presence slightly hid the tall, young man who walked in with her. Angela always looked breathtaking. She is a striking 5'A" and weighs 145 pounds. Her auburn hair cascades just beyond her shoulders. She always dresses elegantly for work. Today, her white blouse was slightly more open, showcasing the cleavage of her ample 38D breasts, which was quite enticing. Her black linen skirt highlighted her remarkable legs, and her 3-inch heels emphasized the attractive contours of her buttocks, perfecting her figure. I briefly considered Angela's apparently innocent query and responded equally naively, "I live here." A quick sign of irritation, which had been more frequent lately, emerged as she snapped back, "Of course you live here. What I'm trying to understand is why you are home at 3:30 in the afternoon. I often say I fell for Angela the moment we met." I had a meeting with 4 top executives at her firm, and Angela, then their administrative assistant, welcomed me in the lobby and took me to the executive offices. 4 hours later, she led me back to the lobby, where I seized the moment and asked her out to dinner. The rest is well known. By this time, Angela's male companion had positioned himself beside her. I almost expected him to sneer, but his perceptive eyes showed concern. Clearly, things were not going as anticipated. "I might ask you the same, Angie. Why are you home an hour and a half early?" Angela and I have been close since our first outing. I have poured my heart into Angela and our family. With dedication, I built a small but prosperous insurance brokerage business. Angela advanced her career with her employer's backing, achieving a bachelor's degree in 6 years and rising to the head of human resources at her company's Hartford office. My devotion to Angela has endured for almost 3 decades. Lately, watching her change into someone distinctly different from the woman I first met, I consciously chose to remain calm, despite the distress her recent behavior had caused. I chose to approach her calmly. When I flashed my usual crooked smile at Angie, she said, "We came home early to speak with you." Her use of "we" complicated matters and raised my interest. I looked Angie directly in the eyes and inquired. A young man took that moment to introduce himself. He stepped up, offered his hand, and introduced himself with confidence. "Mr. Harrington, Chris, I'm Michael Browner. I'm the new attorney at Kellerman & Sons, and I've been working closely with Angie these past months." As I continued staring at Angie, I ignored his offered hand. I suppressed the raw urge to jump up, grab his throat, and squeeze until his eyes popped out. Instead, I snarled, "I'm well aware of who and what you are." For the first time, I noticed anxiety in my wife. Then she flinched when I added, "Ang, you threatened to castrate the last guy who called you Angie. Why are you letting this man disrespect you in your own house?" Angie looked confused and uneasy. She's a thorough planner by nature. I was convinced that she and he had considered every potential scenario for this conversation, believing every detail was perfect. In her eyes, I was already a compliant fool, but a glance at him made me grin. I could tell his muscles were tightening, soon to be as tense as mine. A drama was about to unfold, very different from what Angie and her companion had anticipated. I took several deep, cleansing breaths, trying to compartmentalize the rising anger and revulsion. "Let's get on with this," I decided. "Time to shake them up again. How about I make 3 drinks?" I proposed. "We can talk in the living room." "A glass of wine, please," was Angie's subdued reply. When I looked at him, he seemed wary. He replied to my suggestion by saying, "Angela tells me you favor bourbon and craft beer." I nodded and confirmed as I stood from the kitchen table and walked to the bar in our living room. As I departed, I caught snippets of immediate and intense whispering as they proceeded in the other direction from the kitchen into the living room. Shortly after, I joined them in the living room where they were seated together on the couch. I presented Angie with a glass of her preferred Merlot and him with a tulip glass filled with amber ale. I took my 2 inches of bourbon and positioned myself in the armchair opposite them. Lifting my glass for a toast, I took a modest sip of the potent spirit. In response to the toast, he also sipped his beer, holding the glass up to inspect its color and effervescence. He commented, "This has to be one of the most complex amber ales I've ever tried." "What is it, Pabst Blue Ribbon?" I replied. His expression became one of annoyance, while Angie appeared confused and remarked, "You've always said that Pabst Blue Ribbon is worse than mule urine and the worst beer there is." She was halfway through her sentence when she noticed my laughter. She exclaimed, "You're so infuriating. We came here to have a calm talk with you, and all you've done is be obnoxious and condescending." I grinned and shot back. "I'm obnoxious and condescending. It appears we indeed need to start your conversation. I'm eager to learn about." Engaging in a respectful, positive, and loving dialogue from my ever-faithful wife. Angie flinched and avoided my gaze. He took the lead and began, "Chris, we're here to talk." I cut him off, stating, "You were right at first." "Excuse me," he seemed puzzled, as they typically do when you correct them initially. "When you first addressed me, you called me Mr. Harrington before carelessly calling me Chris. I demand you address me as Mr. Harrington," I said, as his cheeks flushed. Concluding with a casual shrug, also preventing him from continuing, I turned to Angie and pressed, "What is it you want to discuss?" As he seemed about to speak, I interjected, "I am talking to my wife. Just sit there, sip your complex amber mule urine, and keep quiet." Angie exploded, "Your behavior this afternoon has been dreadful. I want it to end immediately." I nodded, seemingly considering her request. I questioned, "Do you think my behavior today is better or worse than your actions over the past 5 or 6 weeks? What are you implying?" Angie appeared both puzzled and concerned. He was visibly holding his breath, waiting for my response. It was evident he thought their carefully orchestrated plan was unraveling. Directly looking into Angie's eyes, I declared, "I can't decide what irritates me more, the fact that you allowed him to intrude on moments that were solely ours, or how you belittle me, thinking I'm oblivious." Angela's face showed surprise, and narrowing her eyes slightly, she queried softly but clearly, "Did you know it seems I have more contacts at your office than you?" "I received an anonymous email from someone at Kellerman's. This email informed me about your affair and included 3 photos of you having a picnic in Middlewoods Park, where you were seen holding hands and kissing. It's unfortunate that you had to find out this way." Angela hesitated before continuing, then I interjected, "Are you suggesting we split up?" "No." She moved closer to me on the couch, leaned forward, rested her elbows on her knees, and with sincere emotion said, "I love you and do not want a divorce. What's happening with Michael is temporary. He's new here in Connecticut and hasn't made many friends yet. Once he settles in, he'll probably find a steady partner. I'm sorry, but this arrangement doesn't work for me. I imagined a committed relationship with a loving partner. Instead, I find that my dedicated spouse has opted for this route. A separation would better suit my future plans." Angela implored, "Chris, please, let's not end this. I do not want a divorce and think you do not either. This event is a one-time thing, nothing else. I was attracted to Michael for some extra excitement in my life. It's my first time. It will soon end and not happen again, I promise." I quietly sipped my bourbon, then paused briefly before answering. "Firstly, your guarantees mean nothing. Everyone here knows about your dishonesty." As Angela started to respond, I interrupted her, saying, "And secondly, how can I be sure this is your sole misstep? For all we know, there might have been others. Think about it. We have built our family together. Now, with Kelly thinking about her own family, we can anticipate a peaceful retirement soon. My affair with Michael will cease and will be forgotten by then." I got up, without offering refills, and walked to the den for more bourbon. My impoliteness was noticed by the pair in the living room. They were softly talking when I returned. "May I offer something, Mr. Harrington?" the man inquired. "Go ahead," was my disinterested reply. He paused to organize his thoughts, then stated, "Angela is right. Ours is just a brief affair. I regret drawing a married person into a relationship. I have never done this before. As you know, she is an extraordinary woman. Discussing divorce, though understandable currently, but may appear rash later. You both have spent years together. Do not throw it away lightly." Angela was worried that the prenuptial agreement her father made them sign might lose her a significant amount in assets if the affair came to light. "I can assert as a lawyer that a nearly 30-year-old contract can be contested. Laws change, terms become antiquated, and a proficient attorney could undermine the agreement. Furthermore, definitive evidence of adultery is necessary beyond minor, innocent public exchanges that some associates might witness," he articulated, confident in his legal acumen. As he concluded his remarks, I reflected on why my wife would trust a business attorney with little renown from Texas Southern University's law school, a place typically lowly regarded nationally. Interrupting him before he could respond, I declared, "Know your opponent," echoing one of my principles. Turning to Angela, I queried, "What's next for you, Angie?" She hesitated, then answered, "Michael and I are planning to spend the weekend together. I'm staying at his place tonight, and we're heading to New York City in the morning. We'll stay there until Saturday, and I'll be back on Sunday." Knowing their plans, the audacity of my wife's intentions profoundly hurt me. I wished she could see the intense sorrow in my eyes as I asked, "So not only have you given yourself to this man, but you're also planning to spend our semi-annual getaway with him?" We've been to New York City every 6 months, every year since we got married, revisiting all the wonderful places we've been together, the acclaimed Broadway plays, the music events, and sports games. You've broken all the cherished memories I hold dear. I'm lost about what has happened, Angie, but you've become as big a disaster as he is. It was obvious I was taunting. Angela realized I was devastated and responded accordingly. I didn't hear a single word she said as the noise in my mind was too loud. Looking at another concerned face, I asked, "Is your wife okay with this?" "My wife, Christopher, stop. Michael is a widower. His wife died a few years ago. He would not cheat on his wife." Even he seemed to wince at my wife's final comment. I grinned and told Angela, "Unlike you, I didn't hesitate before asking, 'Is it true you're a widower?'" He looked anxiously between Angie and me, whispering a tentative yes. I leaned over, picked up a beige folder from the backpack lying on the floor next to where I was seated. I opened the folder, looked at the first page, and announced, "Dr. Cynthia Browner, emergency surgery specialist at Ascension St. John's Hospital, Detroit. Dr. Browner is resigning from her current position effective June 22nd and will move to the Hartford, CT area to be with her husband after her children finish school. She will take up a similar position at St. Francis Hospital and Medical Center in Hartford if not for the distress of my marital situation." Angela's face would have left me laughing uncontrollably. "Did you trick me?" she pressed for an answer. I couldn't help but chuckle. Would you imagine, I bellowed, a trickster and fibber tricking another of the same. "What's become of us?" Michael reached out, nearly grazing Angela's hand, just as I was on the verge of shouting, "Hands off my partner." It dawned on me that my concern had faded. Love, I'm sorry. Yes, I tricked you. You're so appealing and charismatic. I wanted you, longed for you, and I fabricated stories to be near you." He rose, still clasping her hand. "Let's go to my place to talk. Tomorrow we'll head to New York for a splendid weekend. When we get back, we have 3 weeks until my family arrives. Then you can fully commit as a spouse, and I'll commit as a spouse and father." Angela considered her options for a moment, then stood up. She took his hand and turned to me. "After this weekend, I promise to break it off with Michael permanently. I'll be back by Sunday, and I'll resume being the dedicated wife I've always been." Angie and I exchanged a look for a brief second. I wondered if she could feel my heart, already in pieces, breaking further. "I've sat here quite politely, while you two had the opportunity to justify your affair and its supposed non-effect on my bond with Angie. I would appreciate the same 30 minutes from you both to discuss the changes I see coming." They looked at each other, quietly considering their next move. I insisted the least you could give me is 30 minutes. They hesitantly consented. "I've set up a few Zoom meetings," I announced as I pointed the remote at the television and clicked some buttons. I had become proficient in arranging Zoom virtual meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic. As the television activated, I called out, "Peter, Lou, can you hear me?" I was talking to 2 faces on the screen when Chris and Peter replied. I continued, "Angie, you obviously know our family attorney, Peter. Let me introduce you to his colleague and my new divorce attorney, Lou. Gentlemen, I'd also like you to meet the esteemed corporate attorney, Michael Browner." Angie and a friend were taken aback as I finished. "Gentlemen, please proceed." Lou started straightforwardly, "Mrs. Harrington, I am representing your husband in the upcoming divorce. The filings were made in court earlier today. Please retain an attorney and prepare to be served officially. I'll give you until the end of Monday. If we don't hear from your attorney, we will proceed with a process server. We have initiated the divorce on grounds of infidelity. We have an exhaustive report from a private investigator that fully details your affair with Mr. Browner, supported by audio, visual, and telecommunications evidence, I casually tossed another manila envelope onto the coffee table before Angie, causing a loud smack that startled both parties. It's a copy of our divorce petition. Along with the investigator's report, I informed the stunned duo as one of them reached for the envelope. Angie turned her gaze back to the screen. We will insist on full enforcement of the prenuptial agreement. As you know, every 2 years all legal matters, personal and business, of your family undergo a review as per that agreement. The prenuptial agreement has been updated regularly to comply with current state legal standards, with your signed and notarized signatures on each update for the past 28 years. I am fully confident in the enforceability of the prenuptial agreement. Following a vote last night by the Board of Directors of Harrington Brokerage, you are relieved of all corporate responsibilities and no longer associated with Mr. Harrington's company. You have 7 days to return your company credit cards. Your company credit cards have been settled and cancelled. Your cell phone will be deactivated in 7 days, and your memberships at Cedar Mountain Country Club and the gym have been terminated. We have also settled, and we are requesting that the court award Mr. Harrington immediate and complete ownership of the property and allow you 30 days to remove your belongings from the residence. There will be no provision for spousal support, and it is clear that child support does not apply. My client has made several additional minor claims. Your attorney can explain these to you, Chris inquired. Is there anything I missed? No, Lou, you've addressed the key issues. Thanks, I replied. Suddenly, the television screen turned black, and Angie quickly stood up, exclaiming, "That wait!" She turned to me and stated, "Bring them back. I need to ask questions." I laughed and answered, "That's not how it works, Angie. You need to contact a lawyer to get your questions answered." Angie hissed, "I will destroy you." With a smirk, I turned to her colleague and asked, "So what does your nearly brilliant legal mind foresee about her chances of destroying me in this divorce?" His silence caused Angie to slump back into the sofa and curl up. My smile was evident. I casually raised the TV remote, gesturing towards her before aiming it at the TV as the next Zoom meeting began. I announced, "Jake, can you hear me?" "Hi, Chris, I have to join another conference call shortly, so I'll make this quick." "Browner, your employment is terminated effective immediately. Your personal items are being removed from your office and will be boxed and placed in the lobby. If they are not collected within 24 hours, they will be disposed of. You will not be given a reference." As I heard her boss's speech slow, I glanced at Angie and noticed her shaking. She was clearly frightened. "I voiced my deep disappointment with your actions as a senior member of my team, which are entirely unacceptable. Nevertheless, I acknowledge your 29 years of excellent service. Regrettably, your position in Hartford is no longer available. We are offering you the same role at our Albany, New York location. You have 1 week to decide on the transfer and 30 days to relocate to Albany." The screen went blank once more as Angie wept into her hands and slumped dejectedly back on the couch. I intentionally smirked as I gazed at Swip. Upon meeting my look, his anger escalated. Despite being younger, bigger, and presumably stronger, his limited intellect was a disadvantage. Just as Swip was about to erupt, I waved the remote again, aimed it at the TV, and pressed a button. The screen came to life, and I asked Dr. Browner, "Can you hear me?" They both turned pale, their expressions shocked. A beautiful blonde appeared on the screen. She stated, "Please call me Cynthia." "Sorry, Cynthia, you're up." "Michael, I've filed for divorce. You will be served within the next few days. The kids and I will remain in Michigan. I've kept my current job at the hospital." As Swip begged, "Cynthia, we can resolve this. It was just an affair." Her expression showed disgust. "Since Chris contacted me, I have been investigating. This is the 3rd position you've lost due to your inability to control your impulses with other women." After receiving the private investigator's report, I instructed him to continue the investigation. As everyone watched the screen intently, Cynthia continued, "Mrs. Harrington, are you familiar with Alice Packer, Joy Likely, Tori Jones, Candy Phillips?" When Angie remained silent, Cynthia chuckled and remarked, "I didn't really expect a response. It was a rhetorical question. Were you aware that Michael had relationships with each of them? Can you believe that you were merely one of many? Let me know where to send your belongings, Michael." "You are not welcome at our home." When the screen darkened once again, Swip shouted, "I'll kill you." He struggled to his feet as I discreetly drew my Colt .45 from between the couch cushions and aimed the monster at him. Swip looked as though he was about to vomit, but which was exactly the reaction I desired. You have two choices, Swip. Leave or sit down and stay quiet. Whatever you decide is fine, but if you attack me, I will shoot your left testicle off. While I wasn't entirely relieved that he chose to sit, I was grateful that I could proceed with my final scheduled Zoom meeting. I turned to Angie. She looked terrible, her face pale, her cheeks streaked with tears, and her mascara smeared. She appeared awful. I've been seeing a therapist for the last 2 weeks, Angie moaned and sobbed into her hands. It's quite strange you deceive, lie, and share your life with these women, yet I'm the one who needs a mental health professional. I laughed and remarked, isn't that just bizarre? Shortly thereafter, I mentioned to Angela when I recounted our tale to Dr. Waters. She posed a query that has been significantly beneficial to me. She asked, "Are you familiar with the saying, love is blind?" Upon her asking, it felt like a lamp had been turned on in a pitch-black room. I loved you so deeply that I would have remained oblivious to your betrayal if not for that unidentified email. My love was so overpowering it blinded me to your shortcomings. To me, you were flawless. I trust you understand you will never encounter anyone who loves you as profoundly as I did. Angie kept crying and rocking back and forth on the couch. I plan to continue my sessions with Dr. Waters. I think it's vital to have someone to discuss your most intimate feelings and thoughts with, particularly after such a distressing event. I could never have imagined that someone I loved so dearly could belittle and disrespect me so severely. Yet the upside is that I will heal from this humiliation and betrayal. Just as I will move past you today, I shared my intentions with Dr. Waters. She doesn't appreciate revenge, yet she supported the initial 3 Zoom sessions. She concurred that you merited some form of payback. She did try to dissuade me from our upcoming Zoom session, cautioning that the hurt it might cause could hinder my personal recovery. I've thought it over and I must admit that Dr. Wilson is likely right. The next Zoom session will do more damage to me than benefit, yet I remain apathetic. This upcoming meeting will wound me, but it will impact you as well. As I lifted the remote for the 4th time and pointed it at Angie, she shrank back into the couch in terror. I pointed it at the TV and pressed the button. All eyes were fixed on the screen, and when the face showed up, Angie moaned, "Oh no, please God, not this." "I love you," Daddy declared my daughter Kelly. "I love you too, darling." "Why?" Angie shrieked. "How can you treat me this harshly?" "I've heard everything, Mum. I've overheard every conversation you've had with your lover over the past hour. I'm aware of your actions and your plans. You disgust me. Mum, darling, please. This is a highly complex issue." "It's too much for you to understand." Angela breathed heavily as Kelly responded, "Mum, I'm 26 years old, a happily married woman. Your situation isn't complex, it's repulsive on one end and pathetic on the other. I don't know what's changed, but you've turned selfish and completely self-absorbed." Angela was breathing hard as she pleaded, "Kelly, honey, I felt so isolated since you left. It was as if I was surrounded by a haze. I've missed you incredibly." Kelly's face on the display looked puzzled. "So you're saying, Mum, that it's my fault you've become unfaithful, betrayed Dad, and are pursuing a divorce?" "No, that's not what I'm saying, and you know it." "It doesn't matter, Mum. I'm visiting Boston this weekend, and we can talk then. I'm truly sorry this has occurred. I need to be with my daughter." "That won't work, Mum, for 2 reasons. First, you'll be in New York with your worthless, unemployed, newly divorced boyfriend. I'm not heading to New York," Angela countered. "And second, Scott and I have organized a small private gathering for our dearest friends and family. We've booked a venue near Cape Cod. Darling, oh darling, what are you celebrating since you aren't invited? I'll tell you, I'm 3 months pregnant and will be welcoming a baby girl in February. Kelly, I am your mother, and I insist that you include me." "That won't happen, Mum. I desire my special day to be joyful and loving, not filled with the lies and lack of respect that currently dominates so much of your life. Farewell, Mum." For the 4th time, the display turned off as Angela remained seated, crying. I stood up and slipped my handgun into the back of my pants. "I'm going out to eat and will return in 2 hours." I looked at Angela and stated, "You are not allowed back into the home until the court processes my request for divorce." I glanced at a mirror and added, "You know what I am capable of. I'm giving you 3 days to move out of state. If you're still here by Monday, I'll ensure you're harmed in a more direct way." Opening the front door, I turned back to look at the completely devastated cheaters and remarked, "Have a great weekend in New York. The weather is expected to be nice both days." Story 2. My co-worker and I both in long-distance relationships, have worked in the same office for a while but seldom interacted. Last summer, during our lunch breaks when fewer people were around, we started talking more and continued this positive interaction. She pushed for more responsibilities in my area to progress her career, leading us to work more closely. We both pay attention to dressing well and grooming properly, which sets us apart, particularly as we eat together every day. Our conversations are smooth, and I've come to see her as a younger, endearing sister-like figure whom I occasionally assist. We share inside jokes, exchange memes, and send cute photos both at work and leisurely, evolving into a playful work-spouse dynamic. This includes small gestures like bringing each other coffee, helping with chores, and leaving fun notes. Our bond appeared more personal than professional, such as sitting close together on a break room sofa, sharing meals and other similar acts. Many thought we were a couple, but we just smiled and denied it, saying, "Let them think what they wish, it's not our concern," although our supervisor was skeptical due to several coincidences. Yet, since our work performance was excellent by all measures, there was no need for our boss to step in. There are many reasons why we acted this way, but it doesn't change how it looks and probably sounds. At times, we both know to act more formally when the office is busy, but it's still easy to talk and connect since we come from different cultural backgrounds than most of our peers and share similar pasts, thus the little sister dynamic and playful teasing. I assert that our interactions were never sexually inappropriate or involved kissing. Our private talks off the clock were mainly about sharing memes and cute pictures, checking on each other during sicknesses, etc. We don't socialize outside of work, except once when we went to a venue together for a company health event. I jokingly suggested going together, and she agreed. Though nothing happened, we ended up sitting very close together on a 1.5-seater chair by the indoor pool, talking. Recently, we went to a post-work function and planned to hit a club with some colleagues after dinner, but when everyone else backed out, just the two of us went and had more fun than ever. Alcohol loosened us up enough to start discussing deeply personal topics for the first time, and she began inquiring about our sexual pasts. We spent 5 hours nearly inseparable, my arm around her, dancing and staying close. There was a prolonged moment where we were tightly embraced, her face against my neck and arms around each other, and I was deeply tempted, but ultimately I made sure we both got home safely. I felt guilty later, realizing my feelings for my co-worker had deepened past just friendship, while my feelings for my actual girlfriend had significantly waned, yet I didn't want to create more issues, even if my co-worker were to end her relationship with her boyfriend. I was not inclined to start any relationship under that presumption. It might appear insignificant, but it was a boundary for me. Consequently, I made a call and expressed my apologies for overstepping, assuring her that I would endeavor to maintain a more professional demeanor at work. But to my surprise, she replied that nothing of consequence happened tonight, and she felt we hadn't behaved inappropriately. I interpreted this merely as shattering an illusion and forcing meanings onto our unclear relationship, and it appeared she preferred its uncertain nature. Additionally, she repeatedly tried to make clear that she was committed to her partner and that nothing would have happened, stating this around 8 times. Nevertheless, something did transpire, and our looks towards each other resembled those of hunters on the dance floor. Honestly, if I observed someone I was involved with acting as we did, I would terminate the relationship immediately. It's not my place to speculate on her intentions, but I struggle to imagine someone who is truly happy in their relationship letting things escalate to this extent. Furthermore, I've always believed that alcohol doesn't excuse odd behavior, it simply exposes one's true character. Intriguingly, during our sincere talk, she acknowledged noticing that I have deep feelings for her. I recall her seeming rather satisfied by this disclosure, as though she had caught me in a confession. TL Doctor, I emotionally strayed with my appealing co-worker and halted it, yet I'm still confused. Just to be clear, neither of us is married or engaged, and we don't have children, although we've casually discussed our imaginary children a few times. Distance and other differences have caused issues for some time. The last time I met with my girlfriend, I was close to breaking up with her, but even though we made up, things are still not right. My co-worker and I have scarcely talked about our partners beyond the basics, so my insights are mostly based on my own presumptions, though she has revealed more to some of our mutual colleagues. I think we both intentionally avoid the subject. Neither of us has been to a club in years, and frankly, with almost anyone else, I would have preferred to leave immediately or not have gone at all. It's too early to decide if she's the right one, but I genuinely enjoyed the night more than I have in a while. Under other conditions, I might have been willing to pursue something with her. Now, as for any future talks about her love for her boyfriend, it seems that was merely an enjoyable night with someone she trusted, and it is now her concern. Now that I can no longer fool myself about my feelings, I loathe the idea of being the secretive person trying to interfere in a relationship. She is aware of how I feel, perhaps not fully, understanding how much I appreciate her company as a friend. Still, it might be time for me to rejoin the dating scene. A buddy of mine described this scenario so bro, and I agree. I never expected life to be this maddeningly complex. Thank you for listening to this episode of Cheating Stories. If these stories resonated with you, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell to not miss out on the upcoming emotional saga of relationships. Your support means a lot, and we look forward to continuing to share captivating stories with you. Until next time, remember, every relationship has its distinct narrative. See you soon.